it becomes doubly important at that point to maintain a constructive adversary climate in government. In other words, to maintain a climate that will allow the people to know what's going on. If you have a government that's dominated by one party, you have tranquility politically. But tranquility doesn't mean that the people are totally aware of what's going on in the government. It generally means just the opposite. It means that too many things are happening behind the scenes in closed decisions without the knowledge of the media or the people of the state. When you have an adversary political climate, even though it may slow to some extent the implementation of reforms and programs, it does assure that they receive the fullest debate and consideration. And it does assure that the poor parts of those programs will be open to the public scrutiny before they are enacted into law.
After what Texas state Republicans will surely call a very successful trip for their party, Vice President Spiro Agnew goes back to Washington for a round of talks tomorrow with the Israeli Foreign Minister, Abba Eban. This is Dean Thomas, Channel 8 News on the Move at Dallas Love Field.
And the report and have whatever questions I have answered before I make my comments and submit it to the City Council. I'm not obligated to take that report, have it handed to me, and immediately deliver it to the City Council.
What made Mr. Nall think that the report had gone to the telephone company?
I do not know. I don't know where that came about because Mr. Nall spent days and days working with the telephone company in getting his information together. I'm sure they discussed many, many items in the rate request. But where he got the idea that I or any of our people had sent a copy to the telephone company, I do not know, because that was news to me when I heard it.
What is the difference between the typical nursing home and the particular hospital that you're concerned with?
It's very little difference, only a hospital has a few more benefits than a nursing home. Usually a nursing home has a smaller staff, and they're completely, majority is a profit-making organization, where the stockholder, they get the complete benefit of the wage that's coming in. In a nursing home, we have poor salaries. The people there in the last few years, they was cutting salary. They have quite a few patients where they are understaffed because you can't get enough employees to be dedicated to this particular field as far as the pay is concerned. They have a 1 week paid holiday, matters how many years they've been there. And it has other also problems within the nursing home and hospital organization.
How about different centers to cope with, say, youth that are in trouble?
There's an extreme shortage of this type of facility. I don't know of any definite facility in Fort Worth. We do what we can with the hardcore narcotic addicts, as they're called. And it's a federal facility, as you know, and we take people, civil commitment cases from the federal courts. So this takes care of part of the problem. There's no place, actually, other than probably Peter Smith, where kids can be sent for treatment, and I mean intensive treatment. I think what we should do is set up clinics throughout the state of Texas and have satellite clinics where inpatient treatment and outpatient treatment can be obtained.
Well, I'll answer both of your questions. The report was not sent to the telephone company. That allegation was made, as I understand it, but it has not been sent to the telephone company. I checked that with all of my people to be sure that there had not been a report sent. I checked with Mr. Brunworth, the division manager of the telephone company, this morning after this report was out, and he verified that he did not have a report and had not read the report of Joe Nall. Now, under the present charter, the supervisor of public utilities comes under the supervision of the city manager, and it is my responsibility to submit reports to the city council with my comments on those reports.
Mr. Agnew is trying to force a polarization. He's camouflaging the real issues of inflation, the war, racism, poverty, the real elements of crime. He's attacking, trying to get people fearful and frustrated and to polarize them. I think this man is a great danger. I think, in fact, the man ought to be tried on the Brown decision from the Congress on crossing interstate lines to incite violence. I think that the man is just creating a paranoia in the country here unnecessarily. If he has to go gallivanting on raising money for the Republicans, he ought to be talking about the issues that are strangling this country here. If there was no radicals out there or anybody demonstrating, the air is still foul and the water is still bad, and the system is falling apart by itself. And Mr. Agnew ought to concentrate on those issues.
Well, in the first place, as I mentioned, we've debated about this so long, and I've talked to quite a number of people in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it seems to me that there's one thing that the citizens of Dallas want us to do, and that's to make up our mind what we're going to do on this city hall. I feel that there's a lot of other things that need to be done, and if we can get this thing behind us one way or the other, then this will give us an opportunity to do other constructive things for the city.
Well, the clearances can be attributed, I think, to a number of factors. Number one is that the CID personnel are probably working harder now than they ever have before. They're really caught up in the fever of trying to get these clearances up as high as possible. And the men in the field have made some very unusual catches of late, and they've made a lot of good recoveries. And I think team effort on the part of CID personnel and other line divisions has led to some big clearances that we've experienced in the last month or two. And I think this is a team effort that we can attribute this to rather than any one specific thing.
This time prepared to state who. I'm certain that any person, for example, who has a case in his court who lives in Grand Prairie or Irving, obviously had to be influenced by that letter.
Our studies show that one supersonic transport would pollute the atmosphere less than 3 uncontrolled automobiles. We find that the jet engine is one of the cleanest forms of propulsion that there is around, and the automobile seems to be the big culprit, and the diesel engines and so forth. We think that by sometime in the mid-1970s, if we don't get a better control on the automobiles, it's going to be pretty bad news for the people who have to live in areas such as Los Angeles, where there's quite a bit of smog in the air.
This is a very difficult situation for secondary schools. We're very concerned and confused, but our work is in relation with the Texas Education Agency, which supervises our activities, both academic and social. We are now working with the Education Agency in workshops to fulfill the requirements set forth by the last legislature in teaching the ill effects of drugs and narcotics on youngsters from grade 5 through 10. This program, we're having pilot programs all over the state, and this program is being implemented with the use of youngsters in the program, and it eventually will involve all the community activities, the churches, the social clubs, the parents, the parent group, and the school people. Now, no one has an answer except, excuse me, we are looking for answers from competent authorities, and we're not sure how extensive this is. Everyone has their own ideas and say 90% or 80% of the kids are on drugs, but it is a concern, and we will be working in this area for many years to come, and I feel like we will make tremendous growth and emphasizing learning about drugs and effect on youngsters.
There's a lot of talk about one of these days we're going to run out of water. Do you really have any such fears?
Not at all. I think we may run out of water if we prolong the rates of use that we're using right now. For instance, you and I, as city dwellers, probably use about 150 gallons per person per day. A lot of this is used up in activities which we could easily give up if it was in our interest to give it up. And this will be the case when the water is priced high enough to discourage us from doing this. For instance, I'll have a concrete lawn when it becomes too expensive to put water on my lawn, and I'm sure my life will go on much as it was. But while water's cheap, I'll use it to irrigate my lawn. And these kind of adjustments we can make.
Does this also mean that we may have to find another way to take a bath one of these days?
I don't think dry cleaning's around the corner.